we'll make that work. Now, some folks just don't know how to be thankful. All they do is complain. I mean, it really don't make no difference what God does and how good God is. All they do is complain. I wanted to look at this text. I preached it before, but now I want to go all the way back to Exodus chapter 1, because Exodus chapter 1 is the story that continues in Numbers 11. Numbers 11 is about the children of Israel in the wilderness. I need to tell you this before I go too far into this sermon, that the book is called the book of Numbers, but in other translations it's called In the Wilderness, because that's where the children of Israel were in the book of Numbers. They were in the wilderness. Some scholars believe they were about in their second year in the wilderness on their way to the promised land. They were not yet there, but by Exodus, they had been delivered from Egypt. They were in Egypt and they were praying. They were praying to God to come and deliver them. And God sent Moses and told Moses to tell him, I've heard your prayers, and I've seen your suffering by reason of your taskmasters. And he said, tell them that I have come to deliver them. They were praying, God heard their prayers, and God sent Moses to deliver them, and God delivered them by his power through the leadership of Moses. Now, when they were in Egypt, they were crying to God. They were praying. They wanted to be freed from their captives and from their suffering. And God heard them. And Pharaoh didn't want to let them go, but God broke the will and the power of Pharaoh and got them out. And then they were on their way to the promised land. And on their way out of Egypt, they ran into a couple of obstacles. And every time they ran into an obstacle, God, by his power, got them over it or through it. The first obstacle was they came to a Red Sea. Mountains on each side, Pharaoh's army behind them, and the mountains on each side of them. It looked like they were between a rock and a hard place. But God got them through that. He dried up the sea, and then he used the same sea to destroy their enemies. And then out there on the desert, they needed water, and God provided them water. But see, that's not impressive until you realize they were in a desert. The body of water they had just passed, he had dried it up and got them through it. But now they're out there in the desert, and there were no wells, but God created wells in the desert, and he gave them water to drink. And so now they're in the wilderness. And God's been taking care of them. Remember, there is a verse in this Exodus account that when they were in the wilderness on their way to the promised land, on their journey, there is a verse that says that their clothes didn't get old, their shoes didn't wear out, and their garments kept their newness throughout the entire journey. God was taking care of them. I mean, whatever they needed, God provided. Whenever they prayed, God responded. They never went without anything because God knew what he was doing. He knew where he was taking them. but they had to go through the wilderness in order to get to the promised land. The book of Numbers is interesting because it talks about, really, the book of Numbers is about how they repopulated, or how they how they had babies. Because by this time in chapter 11, we know that there was 600,000 men in the camp of Israel in the wilderness. Because Moses says, I'm going to show you as we look at this text, that there was 600 men standing on their feet. This does not include the women and the children. So there were over 1 million people in the wilderness that Moses was leading, and God was taking care of all of them. None of them were going lacking for nothing. And by this time, they were in the wilderness. They didn't have any gardens. They didn't have any livestock that they could depend upon to give them subsistence, to give them food and nutrition. And so by this time, chapter 11, God had provided for them manna, this delicious food that showed up every morning. It was kind of this coriander bread, or this seed that was high in nutrition. It was high in, in water content. It was this, this, this kind of dough that showed up. One author described it as a Krispy Kreme donut without the glaze. It was sweet, it was nutritious, it was hydrating, and every morning they woke up, their supply for that day was provided. And some scholars believe in the dew of the evening, this manna would show up, and by the next morning, enough that they needed was supplied for them. Didn't have to plant it. They didn't have to harvest it. It just showed up because it was what God gave them because of where they were. That manna showed up, but they only got enough for that day. They couldn't store it. They couldn't stock it. They just got what they needed, and then the rest, somehow or another, some scholars believed it just dissolved and disappeared. God was just providing for them what they needed for that day. And really, that's what this Lord's Prayer is about. If you get your daily needs met, you ought to be thankful. Because what Jesus says is this: give us this day. It's right there in that prayer. Our daily bread. Now, why is that important? Because you don't know whether you're going to be here tomorrow. You don't need tomorrow's bread because tomorrow ain't promised to you. You just better be glad that he gives you this day your daily bread. Because the only day you have is today. James was so emphatic about this. He says, don't say what you're going to do tomorrow, because you don't know whether tomorrow is promised to you. You just better be glad you're here today. And you better be glad that things are as well as they are today. And so he provided for them their daily rations of manna. But just like us, that ain't enough. They get sick of it. They didn't plant it. They didn't harvest it. They didn't have to go search for it or find it. It just showed up. But they got sick of it. And by Numbers 11, this complaining got to the ear of God. Look at what it says. Now the people complained about their hardships in the hearing of the Lord. Boy, if I had time, I'd explain to you that they started complaining about their hardships. Do you see that in the text? Now you got to understand what I just said. The manna that they were eating, they didn't plant it, they didn't harvest it, and they didn't have to go try to find it. It just showed up. But the text says they were complaining about their hardships. Remember, I said the manna that they were eating and getting, they didn't plant it, they didn't have to harvest it, they didn't have to go find it. It just showed up every morning. But they were complaining about their hardships. They didn't plant it, didn't have to harvest it, didn't have to go find it. It just showed up. And so they complaining about their hardships. And it's something when you start complaining about the blessings of the Lord, and they started fussing and complaining, and I love what the text says. When the Lord heard it, it aroused his anger. Now, I tell you, to be unappreciative for what God is doing for you, because he knows what you need before you ever ask him for what you need. You don't even know what you need, but the Lord does. And he gives you what you need, when you need it, and how much of what you need that you need. And they started complaining about what the Lord was giving them freely, that they didn't plant, they didn't harvest, they didn't have to go search for. But the text says they started complaining about their hardships. And I can tell you, my brothers and sisters, I'm finna help somebody. There are moments and times and seasons in your life where the Lord wants some things to be hard. Because where God is taking you, you got to go through some hardships. Because, see, the celebration wasn't in the wilderness, the celebration was in the land of Canaan. But they had to go through the wilderness in order to appreciate Canaan. Because in Canaan, they were going to a land flowing with milk and honey. And so God has a process sometimes to get you where he's taking you, to appreciate it when you get there. And so the hardships of the wilderness are sometimes necessary. How many of us can really appreciate where we are because of where we've been? How many of us can appreciate the blessings because we remember the struggle? We remember when we live from paycheck to paycheck, when we had to make $1 out of 15 cents. But God done got us to where we are right now. And we can appreciate the hardship to get where we are now, which is the promised land flowing with milk and man, some of y'all done forgot where you come from. You remember the time when you didn't have but a wig, but now you got 5. When you didn't have but one rag of clothes, now you got plenty. You didn't have but a piece of car, now you can pick out the car you want to drive. Do I have any witnesses in here? You had a car that was held together by clothes hangers and masking tape. And now you can control your car on your phone. I'm talking about remembering the hardship to appreciate where you are right now. Ain't it the truth what I'm saying? I come a long ways. Because sometimes the hardships are necessary to make you appreciate when you get to the land flowing with milk and honey. So they start complaining about their hardship, and it ticked God off. And let me tell you, God ain't going to get ticked off and do nothing. Because the verse says, and then the Lord, a fire from the Lord, came down and among them and burned some of them up on the outskirts of the camp. And God gets sick of your complaining. Keep on complaining. And you really ain't got nothing to really complain about. Ain't nobody in this church got nothing to complain about. You ain't got everything you want, but at least you got something. And instead of complaining, you ought to be thankful. I know that blues song. Y'all don't listen to the blues on Saturday morning. Yeah, you do. You know the song that says it's better to have a piece of man than not to have a man. Listen, a piece of something is better than nothing at all. You ought to be thankful for a piece of something than to have nothing at all. Because it could be that didn't nobody want you. But at least somebody. You ain't getting everything you want from it. I'm going to leave it at that. At least you ain't living in the desert. And sometimes you got to learn to appreciate what you got. It ain't everything you want, but at least you got something. And when you don't learn to appreciate it, the Lord will react. And so this fire came down from God, and they knew exactly where the fire came from. And it consumed some of them on the outskirts of the camp. But let me tell you, Moses prayed. Thank God. In verse 2, Moses prayed and said, Lord, don't kill them. I know you want to, but don't kill them. And so the Lord didn't kill them. He wanted to, because you get sick of folk always complaining. But the Lord stayed his judgment and answered the prayer of Moses. And then verse 4. Boy, I tell you, some of these ramblers, verse 4, they started craving other foods. Now, this word rambler, this strange word that's in Hebrew, who are these? Is it an action or is it a people? It's people who came with them out of Egypt. And again, with some of the Israelites. So these were people who came out of Egypt with them, these ramblers, or these people these strangers, these vagabonds, these people who attached to themselves with the Israelites as they left Egypt. They started talking about craving the food that they had when they were in Egypt. And in Egypt, they was eating pretty good. They were slaves, they was being mistreated, and they had all of these rules and restrictions but they had good food, and the food was free that they had down there in Egypt. They were living it up, eating good, but they were slaves and being mistreated and being beaten. And they were complaining about the suffering by reason of their taskmasters, but they had free food. And so they started craving the food. And they said, if we only had meat. Because they said in verse 5, we remember the fish we ate at no cost. But they suffering. But they remember free. I could talk about SNAP benefits, but I ain't going to talk about it. But I can tell you this, didn't nobody starve for 40 days they found a way to survive. Because listen, you'd be surprised what people will do when some stuff that they think they need get cut off. Do I have any witnesses in here? I mean, I want you to see this in the text. They said, we were in Egypt and we got free stuff. The fish was free. We remember No cost. We got cucumbers and melons and leeks and onions and garlic. But now we've lost our appetites. We've never seen anything but manna. And I could explain to you, they were craving the stuff they had in Egypt because it was free. People love free stuff. Free stuff, boy, they talking about that stuff was free. We was eating good on the government of Egypt. And now we done left Egypt. Now we out here in the wilderness, and God has given us what we need. We can't buy no Cokes and candies and sugary cereal. The Lord said He's going to give us what we need that's going to make us strong and healthy for the journey we got to go on. And they said, we want to go back to that old stuff. And they said, listen, but now all we got is manna. And then in verse 7, the author of this particular book tells us what that manna is, coriander seed, and it was that they grind it up and they cooked it and it turned into a loaf of bread, and it tasted somewhat like it had a little mix of olive, but it was sweet. But that wasn't enough. And verse 10 says, and Moses heard the wailing of every family. Now let me tell you this, my brothers and sisters, because I don't want you to gloss over that, Sister Temple. Do you not know when one person complained, it will become contagious? Because it was a few Israelites. And some folk don't know that life is bad until they hear somebody else say that life is bad. Life is going on pretty good. Life is, because really some folk just don't know that life is good, but then they become discontent when everybody else start complaining about how bad life is. You got to be careful. Listen to some folk, because misery loves company. And birds of a feather will flock together. And then every family started complaining. Wasn't nobody really complaining until a few started complaining. Some who came out of Egypt with the Israelites, and then the Israelites started complaining. And then all of them started complaining to Moses, entering into the tents. The text says, and the Lord became exceedingly angry. First of all, in the beginning of the chapter, the anger of the Lord was aroused. Now God is really ticked off, exceedingly angry. And Moses was troubled. And then Moses started talking to the Lord. Now listen, now you ain't gonna be able to relate to this next section in the text, but I can. Because Moses said to the Lord, why have you brought this trouble on your servant? Now I don't have time to really go down here and say everything Moses said, but he sure got to talking to the Lord. He said, why have you brought this trouble upon your servant? And what have I done to displease you that you put the burden of all these people on me? How you put this burden? These your folk. Now, these your folk that's complaining. I'm just doing my job. And I'm just leading them like you told me to lead them, and they complaining. They ain't never happy. They ain't never satisfied. They can't never be content. And these are your folk. But they bringing all their problems to me. And they burdening me. They worrying me. And he said, these are your folk. And he asked God a question. Have I conceived all of these people? Did I give birth to them? Did I carry them in my arms? Did I nurse them like an infant? He was saying, I can tell you what he said. One author said, he said, these folks sucking the life out of me. About to drive me crazy. They ain't never satisfied. You done everything they asked you to do. You delivered them and brought them and took care of them and keeping them, and they still ain't satisfied. And their discontent is sucking the life out of me. And it's like an infant that is being nursed. They just sucking the life out of me. And Moses says that, where can I get meat in verse 13 for all these people? They keep wailing to me to give them meat. And he says, I cannot carry all the burden of these people. It's too heavy for me. He says, shoot, man, these folks about to drive me up the wall. Because that's complaining folk will do that. Folk who you can never make happy. Now I'm going to tell you a verse. Now listen to this verse. In Proverbs, it says, it's better to live in a house with a leaky roof than a woman that you can't make happy. Let me tell you something. That's what Proverbs says. Solomon says it's better to live in a house with a leaky roof, a tin roof, where the rain beats on the roof. And not only does the rain beat on the roof, but it leaks in the house. It's better to be in that misery than to live in a house with a woman who you cannot make happy, no matter what you do. A person that just can't be happy, it's hard to live with them, no matter what you do. I really wanted to say that thing y'all said, but I can't because I'm in here. I'm up in this pulpit. You know, it said, dang if you do, dang if you. That ain't what you said. No matter what you do, they cannot be happy. They will not be happy because they want everything perfect. Listen, there's no such thing as a perfect situation. There's no such thing as a perfect person. There's no such thing as a perfect job. There's no such thing as a perfect church. There's no such thing as a perfect person. There's no such thing as a perfect situation. Perfection does not exist on this side of heaven. Everything is flawed. Everything comes with problems. So you think you're going to find a perfect situation, you're wasting your time. And if it's perfect, as soon as you show up, it's going to be unperfect. So the Lord told Moses in verse 16, says, bring about 70 of the elders of Israel, leaders and officials, at the tent of meetings. And you bring them there, I will take some of the spirit I've given you and give it to them. And they will share the burden of the people with you so that you won't have to carry it alone. See, some of y'all done got excited. I mean, that's easier said than done. Because first of all, you got to find somebody to give a burden to. And giving a burden to is not picking what you want to carry, but accept what you've been given. See, everybody in the church, they want to pick what they want to do. But some of this, listen, that's not a burden because you're going to pick the easiest thing to do. But there's some stuff in here that's a burden. That's hard and heavy. He said, you go find 70 men that's willing to pick, to carry the burden I'm going to give them. And I'm going to give them some of the work that you're doing that's causing you about to go crazy. And so it says, you find them. And so they went. And then the Lord in verse 18 says, consecrate yourselves and prepare for tomorrow when you will have meat. He's talking to the people. And the Lord heard their wailing. If we only had meat to eat, we were better off in Egypt. My brothers and sisters, some folk think they had it better off. See, that's the problem I have with these young girls who want them fellas in the street, them unofficial pharmaceutical sales. Think they got it better because they slanging a little money. Boy, they think they got it. I got a woman right now, she waiting for her boyfriend to get out of prison. Went to prison for drugs, being a drug dealer, and she think for some reason, when he get out, life gonna be better. You ain't never seen a drug dealer retire and live off of his earnings. Would prefer to have a man slanging pharmaceutical drugs on the street than a man with a job. Ain't that something? Love men who make fast money, but a man with a job ain't even being considered these days. But I want you to read this because you think what God's about to do is a blessing. Give them what they ask for. I need to tell you this, you better be careful what you ask for. The Lord know what you need is manna. But the Lord will get so sick of you asking for what he know you don't need, and I want you to see how God responds to them. Look at what the text says. Now the Lord will give you meat, and you will eat it. And you will not eat it for a day. You ain't going to eat it for 2 days. You ain't going to eat it for 10 days or 20 days. But you're going to eat it for a whole month until it come out of your nostrils, until you loathe it, or other words, until you hate it. You're going to eat and have so much meat. That's what you want. I know you don't need it. But since that's what you want, I'm going to give it to you. And I'm going to give you so much of it till you ain't going to have no place to put it, store it. And I'm going to give you so much of it till you're going to overeat. And you're going to overeat to the point to where it makes you sick. And you're going to throw up. And it's not only going to come out of your mouth, it's going to come out of your nose. Because you have rejected the Lord and have wailed to him. Why did we ever leave Egypt? And then the Lord had to tell Moses, had to straighten him out, because Moses thought he was going to have to provide all this meat. He said, Lord, it's 600,000 men on their feet. Where am I going to get enough meat to feed 600,000 men? He says, we don't even have enough flock or herds to slaughter for them. There wouldn't be enough fish in the sea to catch for them. And then this is the shouting part of the verse, and I'm almost finished. Verse 23. Now see, this is where you need to really lower your anchor, because it says, is the Lord's hand short? Man, he really just saying this, isn't anything too impossible for the Lord. Now let me tell you something. It might be too impossible for Moses, but it ain't too hard for God. Now listen, don't ever play God like God can't do what it is you want him to do. Just because he don't do it don't mean that he can't do it. You remember the 3 Hebrew boys said, now we know that he can get us out, but he might not get us out, but it ain't because he can't. We know he can. And let me tell you, it ain't nothing God can't do for you that you want him to do. Ain't nothing too hard for God. Whatever God want to do, God can do. Moses talking about this is going to be too hard for me to do. It's 600,000 men. We ain't got enough animals and herds to feed this crowd. And if you took all the fish out of all the seas, it still wouldn't be enough to feed over 1.5 million people. The Lord answered to Moses, says, is the Lord's hand short? Now you will see whether or not what I say is going to come true. God said to Moses, you just watch me. See what I'm going to do. I'm going to make some of y'all shout. Just because you can't see how God going to do it don't mean God ain't going to do it. Because sometimes God will say he's going to do something, but you don't see how he's going to do it. Because let me tell you, boy, if I had time, I'd explain to you this. In the wilderness, they were way, way away from the sea. And where these quail came from was from the sea. You're going to see that as you continue to read the narrative. And listen, it wasn't no birds nowhere around. And this particular path over the wilderness or through the wilderness was not on their migratory route. And they had no reason to go to the wilderness. But God can get to you what he wants to get to you, no matter where it is. God can get to you what he wants to get to you. And the Lord said, I'll show you what I'm going to do. You just stand around here. Go on back over there to them folks. And just wait. And sometimes that's what you got to do. You got to wait. He may not come when you want him, but he's always on. Moses was probably looking like Noah, looking up. Noah was looking for clouds and rain. Wasn't no rain. Noah was looking for God, promised rain, but didn't see no cloud, didn't see no rain. And Moses probably looking up and ain't seeing no quail, bird, no meat. What in the world? How he gonna feed 1.5 million people? I told him we ain't have enough animals, and we way away from the sea, fish. Where we gonna get meat? I got to skip on over to verse 31 because I'm almost finished. The Lord decided to move. And now a wind from the Lord. You got to keep that phrase in your mind. First of all, the fire from the Lord came and destroyed those who constantly complain. Fire from the Lord. Now a wind from the Lord. Boy, you better thank God for the wind. Because sometimes the wind can blow some stuff your way. You ever seen God change the direction of something that you need and give you favor in it, and you don't have to go find it, but it comes to you? Because that's what it represents, that the wind, they didn't have to go look for the quail, but the wind drove the quail to where the people were. God can get his stuff and his resources to where you are. Whether you in California, Michigan, New York, Westport, Tupelo, Columbus, stop. God can get his stuff to where you are. Now a wind went out from the Lord and drove the quail from the sea. Because where the quail's resources were by the sea. Where the water was by the sea. Where they migrated to was by the sea. But the Lord said, I got somebody I need to take care of. And so he sent the quail. And so the quail came and fell over the camp, and boy, it was a lot. It was more than what they could eat. And the text says it was 2 cubits deep all around the camp. As far as the day could walk in it, they just had more meat everywhere. Just dead quail just falling out of the sky. They had to walk through quail. They wanted meat. I said, I'll give you meat. You don't need meat, but I'll give it to you. Manna good. But since you keep complaining, I'm going to give you more than what you need. Boy, I'm talking about it was almost quail up to their knees in every direction, according to the text. And nobody gathered less than 10 hummers, which is baskets. But verse 33, you got to be careful what you ask for. So God sometimes will give you what you can't handle. See, some of y'all couldn't be rich because you ain't doing nothing with what you got. Talking about if you hit the lotto, you give to your church. I hope you do, but you won't give and you ain't hit the lotto. So my pastor, if I do hit the lotto, I ain't gonna forget you. Yeah, you will. If you won't share with me a dime, you ain't gonna share with me a million. If you ain't gonna give God a tenth of what you got now, because sometimes the more we get, the more selfish we become. Because the book of Philippians is not about people who could afford to give, but Paul said to the Philippian church, you gave out of your poverty. When you really couldn't afford to give, you gave. I was reading one author, he said this, Brother Clyde. He said, instead of them getting what they needed, because it was so much, they got more than what they needed. And so they became gluttons. They had baskets of dead quail just sitting around. They were just smashing every day, just eating up quail. And the text says in verse 33, but while the meat was between their teeth. See, God got a sense of humor. Well, they can't be satisfied. You know, you ever met people just can't be satisfied, and they think the more they get, the more they have, the more they want. Be weary of them people talk about, if I had, I'd do. No, they wouldn't. Because they already got and they still don't do. And so the Lord, while they was chewing the meat and it was between their teeth, before it could be consumed, the anger of the Lord burned against his people. And he struck them with a severe plague. What he blessed them with now is making them sick. Because you better be careful. Because if you want what God know you don't need, he'll give it to you, then he'll make you sick. You'll struggle with it. Because you got more than what you need. You ain't doing nothing with what you got. You just be thankful for what you got. You know really all you need is food on the table, shelter over your head, clothes on your back, and a reasonable portion of health and strength. And if you can't say thank you for just that, God will give you more than what you need. And it will overwhelm you. What he blessed them with is now making them sick. I'm almost finished. And God struck them with a severe plague. Because they buried the people who were craving other food. They just couldn't be satisfied with what they got. So they just constantly complained. I don't want God to give me everything I want. I just want him to give me what I need. Because I know a lot of what I want, I really can't handle it. See, you just acting like you can handle it. No, you couldn't handle it. You better be careful that the Lord give me this day my daily bread. That's what you ought to be praying. Don't give me this day my daily wants, because sometimes what you want, you can't handle. What you want is more than what you need. And it'll bring more harm than benefit and blessing. God knew they couldn't handle me. So he gave them more than what they needed. And I'm closing because you got to be careful always being hungry and want more than what you need. You know how folk are. Just always complaining. If you woke up this morning with an complaint, you ought to be ashamed of yourself. You went to bed with an complaint. I mean, what you complaining for? Everybody in this church, you're blessed better than blessed. I can tell you how you're blessed. If you can't find a reason to tell God thank you and be thankful, let me give you one good one. You alive. You woke up with breath to breathe, feet to walk on. You might have not been walking your best. You might have walked in with a cane and pain, but you still walking. It could have been the other way. You ain't got no reason to complain about nothing. Some of you complaining about your aches and pain. I can go ahead and tell you, you're old. You're walking on 70-year-old feet with 70-year-old knees, with 70-year-old joints. Walk around with a 70-year-old heart, with a 70-year-old liver. And you're trying to think with a 70-year-old brain. And anything that old ain't going to work like it used to work. I'm trying to figure out what you're complaining about. You ain't got nothing in your house, in your possessions, that is 70 years old, and it worked like it. I don't know what you're complaining for. You ain't no spring chicken. I don't care how you dress, how many pills you take, how much you work out, how healthy of a nutritious routine you have. It's still a fact. Miss Jefferson walking around in 94-year-old feet with a 94-year-old heart. And it just ain't going to work like it. And then don't forget what the Bible tells us. This earthly tabernacle is dissolving. And this old building keeps on leaking. And it keeps on leaning. I don't know what you're complaining for about aches and pains. You're going to have them. You know what you done with these feet and knees and legs? Much running as you done? And now all of a sudden you come to the church, you wasn't complaining when you was in the street. But all of a sudden you're in the church. You're too sick and you're too feeble and ain't able to come to church. But when you was in the street, no complaint. Your feet hurt. Done went over your bedtime, you still out there in them streets, on them same knees. West Point gonna play probably at Mississippi State. I don't care if it's raining, sleet, or snow, you're gonna be over there. You're gonna go up them stadium steps, and you ain't gonna complain one bit. But getting out of your car, walking in them doors, and we ain't got one step for you to climb. You complaining, boy, I'd have went to church, but boy, my knees are hurt. I'm telling you, we complain. Just be thankful to get up, to stand up. Just be thankful. And I tell you, they just complain. No matter what God did for them, how good God was to them, they just complain. Now, I need to make this point. Some of y'all are more blessed than you could ever know and imagine. Let me bring it home to you. You sick like other folks sick, but you ain't sick enough that you couldn't get up this morning. Got some of the same problems, ailments, and issues other folk got, but God. And there's some folk that's with circumstances you got, but God has given you just a little more grace. I guarantee you, it's somebody just like you in the same circumstances with the same set of issues you got, but God has given you more grace. I grew up in a house with 3 other siblings. Same mama, same circumstance. But God just gave me a little more grace. It could have been the other way. Some of y'all know what I'm talking about. You know some of the people that you grew up with, family members, and their life didn't come out the way yours came out, but grace. That's why we sang Amazing Grace. How sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. You really ain't got nothing to complain about. You just ought to be just thankful. And then God be sending you through the wilderness for a reason. Hardships have a reason. Because that's not where you're going to be. That's just where you are. You're on your way to the promised land, a land flowing with milk and honey. And one scholar wanted me to tell you this. Don't get too upset about the hardships. Because hardships are necessary. Wildernesses are necessary because you know what the wilderness represents in the text that we are talking about in the book of Numbers? You know what God did? He weeded out the complainers. Because everybody over 40, all they did was complain. They remembered how good life was in their minds in Egypt, and everybody over 40 died in the wilderness. Everybody over 40 that Joshua led was under 40. Everybody that came out with Moses that was over 40. The wilderness God thinned out and weeded out and purged out because they couldn't go into the land of promise because they were holding on to the way life used to be. And they could never be satisfied. I need to tell you this, God will never get you out of your wilderness until you stop complaining. Until you learn to be thankful and appreciate where you are. You're missing the blessings of God because all you do is complain. You never see that this is where I am. It's not where I'm going to be. This is temporary and not permanent. Your tears are just temporary. A little crying now and then is all right. Because after a while, God's going to wipe all of your tears. Well, I'm just thankful. Just glad to be alive. Glad to be able to lay down and sleep. And my sleep wasn't unto death. I woke up in my bed and looked over my shoulder and the daylight was peeking through my window. And before I got up, I spoke up and said, thank you. Stood up on my own 2 feet. Looked around my house. Windows wasn't broken. Door wasn't kicked in. Thank you. Went into the refrigerator, got a little sustenance to drink. Just tell him, thank you. Went into my closets. I didn't say closet. Closets. And looked over all that I had. Boy, I just told him, thank you. And went to my little stash and got a little piece of money to pay in the church. Told him, thank you. Finally got dressed, went outside and looked in the driveway and I had a variety of choices. Told him, thank you. And every morning I get up, I don't really get gas during the week, and I get gas on the weekend, especially on my way to church if I drive my car, and I usually stop at either Kroger's or Walmart. And at Kroger's and Walmart, at the fuel station, there are homeless people that live under the bridge right there by Wendy's. And in the morning time, they start coming out from under the bridge, standing in front of the fuel station at Walmart, begging for somebody to give them money to get a cup of coffee or cigarettes. And I realized that it could have been me. But I didn't come from under a bridge. I came from Madison Street. And I didn't have to beg, panhandle, but God. I asked God to have mercy on them. But I told him, thank you for me. Got on McCullough and got up to 45 and got down the highway. And I realized that every time I get to that Egypt and that Perry exit, I'm going to tell this story when I'm going to myself. Every time I get to that exit, right there, Perry in Egypt, right there, it's a little hill. They done built like a power station over there. There's a right and a left lane. I'm about to get happy. But in the left lane, right there as you get on that hill, the Perry and Prairie exit by the power station, in the left lane, right as you get ready to top that hill, you see this place where the concrete is burned. But there was an accident years ago where a woman was coming from the prairie side. And she thought because of the fog, she was on the northern side of 45. But she ended up on the side where the traffic was coming in her direction. And she topped the hill. And there was a man coming in the left lane in the south side, down 45. And they collided right there on that hill. Accident was so devastating that the intensity of the fire burned the asphalt. And every time I pass over that, I tell him thank you. God has been good to me. I make it down 45. Accident free. I thank you, Lord. Because it could have been me, but God. Then I get here early sometimes. I remember down in South Mississippi, pastor got there early and there was a man waiting for him and he was begging. The pastor said, the church ain't open and I ain't got no money to give you. And then the man said, give me your money. The pastor said, I ain't going to do that. And he shot and killed him. But God, through many dangers, toils, and snares, I've already more grace. Every head bowed and every eye closed. Don't complain, just be. Ain't you thankful? Thank you, Jesus. You've been good to me. You kept me, and you brought me from a mighty long way. You ought to just tell him, thank you for being good to me. Thank you for taking care of me. Thank you for 94 years. Thank you for 58 years. Thank you for 72 years. Thank you for 50 years. Thank you. Thank you. For another Thanksgiving if I make it. To see my friends, loved ones, and family, I just want to say thank you. Things are not at their best, but I'm glad that things are as well as they are. I just want to tell him, thank you. Every head bowed, every eye closed. If you're here today and you don't know Jesus Christ, if you want to be saved, you can come. If you're here today and you want prayer, if you're here today and you want to join the church, the door of the church is open. God is able to do whatever you need him to do and want him to do. I wanted to tell you this before I close this sermon. There's that great verse in the Bible that says this: all things